Good to be with you here once again on UPFront. I am blessed Sogah. And as we know it, revenue leakages have been the bane of Ghana's ability to derive more incomes from the petroleum sector. No doubt about that. However, an attempt last year to scale up activities of revenue assurances through a company called SML in the upstream petroleum sector became a subject of national controversy. Although SML insists that they had improved tax revenue collection significantly, a KPMG audit report challenged that particular account after media reports came out about the activities of the company, and its claim that it had raked in revenue to the tune of about $3 billion United States dollars, a reason for which President Akufo-Addo then reversed a $100 million contract to the company SML. Even at that downstream sector, there's still some contention, as the audit findings from KPMG is pointing out that there will be a clear need for SML to amend some of its activities in that sector. SML remains constant on their position, and of course they've relatively remained calm over the years, but tonight we hear their full account and also get to hear their real contributions to revenue mobilization across the country, particularly in the petroleum sector, because this conversation will now inform us on particularly and practically what the company has done over the years. But let's get to it for you, shaping up the timelines and how all of these has been unfolding. You have a breakdown of some of the details on your screens coming up right about now to give you a sense of what has been happening, because that is crucial in the whole conversation. So there you have it on the screens, talking about what happened somewhere early last year. Of course, the decision by the Ghana Revenue Authority to terminate some aspects of the SML deal. This was based on a presidential directive, one from the president, first of all, terminating transaction audit and external verification services contract, and also issues relating to the measurement of the downstream petroleum products. That contract ought to be amended, as the GRA was indicating. And beyond that as well, there are a number of more issues emerging in that sector. Of course, there's the issue about the upstream petroleum and minerals revenue audit in terms of portions of the contracts for consolidation of revenue assurance services, which, of course, that report is indicating that it cannot take effect until a comprehensive technical needs assessment for value for money audits and other assessments ought to be carried out and have to be achieved according to the GRA, SMA issues, which is now been the basis for which the GRA is taking their decision. Beyond that, there's a need for us to look at holistically some of the issues that emerged at the time in 2023, December, when, of course, the investigative report carried out by the Fourth Estate brought up the issues, then pointing out to the 10-year contract and the annual planned payment of $100 million and to SML. But this is the figure that KPMG findings are pointing out to us, that indeed the total sum contract should be somewhere around 5.17 billion, a billion a year in terms of Ghana cedis, which was the contract package. Beyond that, there are key findings that KPMG at the time had recommended as to what should be the way forward, a reason for which the president took his decision. That first, there was no technical needs assessment that was done prior to the engagement of SML. After that, of course, SML was engaged. GRA and MOF reports all found out that there might be under-reporting, under-declaration, and also the potential revenue leakages, a reason for which SML was involved in that sector. So beyond that, we know that the president has indeed taken his decision, a reason for which the president still maintains that although the upstream deal will be reversed, there is, quote, as you can see on the third point there, there's a clear need for the downstream petroleum audit service provided by SML to be retained, except that portions obviously would have to be amended. And that's why we're having the conversation for tonight, looking at the SML story and how they have indeed contributed to revenue mobilization in the country, particularly at a time where the government may be in need of more revenue opportunities. How will that work? How will that pan out? We'll hear the SML story shortly. Stay with us here on UPFront. We'll be right back. And good to have you back with us on UpFront. I'm blessed, Sogah, and of course, grateful to have Sogah Sapong, who is SML Director Support Service, joining us here on UpFront. And of course, yeah, it's good to see you joining us after a busy schedule, I believe, throughout the day. Yeah. But SML obviously has been the talk of the nation. There are a lot of people wondering exactly what services you render in the first place, knowing that Ghana is at a crossroads now. We need more funds, we need more revenue. Which, of course, will feed into the development agenda.
Yes.
But your story has not been out there for quite some time. Let's get a true picture of perhaps what you are involved in and how you support state agencies such as the Ghana Revenue Authority to show up revenue. Because that's what we do.
That's what we do. Definitely. That's what we do, revenue assurance for Ghana Revenue Authority. So what we offer transaction audit and external price verification services, downstream petroleum audit, and we are now about to start. We have not been given the green light yet, but we have contract for it to go to the upstream petroleum and solid minerals to do audit as well. So we are a wholly owned Ghanaian company. We specialize in revenue assurance using high-tech, first of its kind innovation to deliver the solutions for GRA. So mainly what we do for GRA is to enable them to be able to fully function efficiently to actualize the revenue mobilization mandate that we've given to them as a nation. That is what we do. That is SML. Now, we have about SML, we have a lot to talk about. We were incorporated in 2017 and started operations in 2018. Like I have said earlier, our expertise is in revenue assurance, monitoring, and specialized audit services. We have a value proposition. And what this is that a balanced risk-reward business model structure. What this means is that the whole work that we do, when we sign contract with government, we said we are going to bear all the burden, the financial burden, we are going to bear it. What government does is just to enjoy the benefits we bring, the solution that we bring, the revenue that we generate. Government takes 95% if we are to put it in 100% term. Government takes 95%, gives SML 5%. From that 5% is how it includes our, our needs assessment, the research we made to do this, the piloting stage, going live, maintenance, updates, because we do with a lot of software. So all of these things come into paying for what we receive from government in the 5%. That is rare. And we say that is rare because most government contracts will take, they will take about 30% mobilization fee, even before we start anything. We've not taken a peso. Everything we are going to show to Ghana now, government has not invested in it. It's from our pockets. And what we want to say is that even with the materials that we import to do the work we do, one would think that you are working with GRA. So you have, some tax exempt. We are not even, yes, we are not, no, we pay for everything. That shows that we are not in to take from government, but rather it's a dedication to contribute to the growth of the nation. That is one of the value propositions we bring on board. The second one is the real-time monitoring and data capturing systems. Every solution we deliver is in real time. In real time means as it is happening. So for instance, if, as we speak now, if the depots are not closed and they are still lifting petroleum products, we know because the data is sent from the field to the data facility center. So we can see what's going on. That is real time. In real time, we can be able to tell, for instance, if GRA closes today, because of the real time insight, they know which OMC has lifted what, at where across the country, because we are monitoring across the country. Boga, Bupe, Takoradi, everywhere there is a depot, we have our instrumentation there.
That brings up the question as to capacity and how you actually do that. What sort of systems do you have which beats any other pre-existing structure that may have existed either in the GRA framework or anywhere else?
Yeah. So what is special is that we have deployed field technology, and we have the data, the software technology, and we've seamlessly integrated the two. The systems in the country now, the services that is given, you can either have the field deployment or the software deployment. You will not get the two fused without human intervention. But that's not the case with SML. Every information we are collecting from the depots are transmitted through secure satellite systems to the data center, where the software, our flagship software, is called SML Experience. SML Experience does its own totalization, do the reconciliation that is supposed to be done, and churn out the reports, inform GRA in real time. For instance, the expected tax for today. For all the liftings that has gone across the country, GRA knows at a click of a button. That was rare. It was everything we have given to GRA. It was a dream come true. Like, it was a technological dream, and we've delivered that. That is what sets us apart, to fuse the field technology with the software development. It's taking years for this to be done. It's taking years to develop a software. And one thing about the Ghana Downstream is that it's owned by private people, the bulk distributors, and so the depots are owned by private people. So you cannot have two depots that have the same architecture design. That means that whatever you are doing for every depot, they need to be customized. When you customize this, it means you cannot transfer to the other. So every deployment we've made in all the depots are customized. When we bring their goods, you can't give it to any, even if it's in, there is
so the technology is there. Let's get then to perhaps then you might want to, move us.
The experience, the experience,
some of the challenges that practically GRA was facing at the time. And the innovative solutions you are bringing on board to tackle that. Lack of independent metering, which was a key issue in terms of the lifting. And I'm not sure that entirely it's out of the sector. You agree?
Which one, sorry?
The metering. Yes.
You are dealing with flow. You need a check meter in every system where we have the resources. There is a main meter in Ghana's Downstream, which is the depots meter. And then we will have a check meter that checks what the main meter is recording. So we have a double of the information. So when one is not functioning, the check meter is there. But in the case of GRA, when we came to the Downstream, and pretty much for government, we have GRA being the taxman and NPA being the regulators. None of them had meters. So they relied on the business people's meter. So you are doing business with me, and I'm using my scale to measure the product we are selling. There is need for you to have your own meter. And GRA, being the taxman, having the critical issue. At the time when we came into Downstream, which is in May, the revenue leakage was fast becoming a national security issue. When we get later on into the figures,
you show us
I will show you.
Because I was going to ask the question about people who are skeptical, first of all, about technological interventions. Some say that, well, if you bring the technology, you still need the human being, excuse my language, to be there to monitor and to check. Because if you don't do that, people could bypass the system. That's been, pre-existing.
Right. So technology has advanced. We are in generative AI, where we are even going into integrative AI. So the system, SML system, don't need human intervention. For instance, where we are talking about technology with metering, when we start showing the video, I will show the tanks that GRA 20 feet tanks. If you've been to a depot, you know 20 feet tank is bigger than this room. They climb it up in the morning to go and measure the petroleum products with dipsticks. In the evening to do same. Now, these are the tanks.
Okay,
Imagine climbing to use a dipstick to measure the petroleum product sitting here. You know?
Practically, you're saying human intervention wouldn't have done that.
That was the manual way of doing things.
It, yeah.
It's not right. We are in 21st century. We have taxed GRA to take tax for us. We need to be able to enable them to be able to fully function. And in today's business, if you want to fully function, if you want to be efficient, I don't think climbing this tank to go and use dipstick is the solution. What we have done is that we have brought in metering systems, the ultrasonic flow meters that we have strapped. As the video goes on, when we see it, I will let the producers pause it. We've brought that because the infrastructure was already built. You can do nothing than not.
I believe this is what you're talking
about. These are deployments. So these are power station where we want to ensure, these are batteries, we have solar. We want to ensure that at every point in time, even when there is electric cut at the depots, we will have power. So that is one of the deployments we want to show. We want to show this because in some, information that has been given out there, SML is virtually doing nothing for money.
Right.
So we want the Ghana. So these are ultrasonic flow meters. Now, what you see here are the pipes where the product flows. They are flowing from the tanks to the gantry where the trucks pick the product and go to sell to us. We've strategically positioned these meters.
Right.
So every drop of fuel that moves from the tank into the truck are captured. So what that means is that there is no fuel that is not accounted for.
Okay, we'll come to the cost element and how much you're saving the country. But are you saying practically that the industry and, of course, private sector players, they are not popes, they are not bishops, so obviously they are not holy, as I should say. Are you telling us that this system prevents any of these private sector participators in the downstream sector to bypass the system in terms of revenue assurance?
Because you are flowing products.
Right.
And if you have, it's more, the meters you saw, it's more like a police on the way stopping illegal people, consignment. If you are flowing in the night, for instance, at this time, GRA is almost closing from the depot.
Right.
Who is going to be there to watch it's a bonded warehouse. Who is going to be there to watch whether there is going to be lifting in the night or not? But when you have the automation, the meters strapped there, can you pause this one from, this is also another important instrument that we need to look at, technology that we need to look at. So when we close and there is no one there, the meters are strategically positioned where the petroleum product is leaving the tanks. So there is no way you can start the pump and put in a truck to fill that we will not record. So if, for instance, we just closed down, we had about 5.6 recorded for the close day. If tomorrow we come and we have 7 or 6 or even 5.8, we know that there has been a flow. The depot is responsible now to pay. They have to answer GRA, the extra that has come to where we closed. So these are ways that is ensuring that nobody is lifting petroleum product in the absence of GRA.
What would you say to someone who's, of course, on the other side, having that notion, as you were just pointing out, that you're basically doing no work and yet you're receiving so much for it? You've pointed out the technology. Is this translating into, say, the figures and perhaps what the state what the state is benefiting from?
Yes. So, for instance, this is the automatic tank gauging system. It's sitting on top of the tank. At every point in time, it's measuring the linear quantity of petroleum products that are in the tank. What this is doing is that it's sharing to us the stock of products we have across the country. And we have in real time the balance of every stock. Now GRA has that. That is revenue. Because you know your stock. If, for instance, you have a business At close of business, you know your stock. That's what the women do. You know your stock. So you can check how much I brought in, how much is left, how much money I should have. All of these things come together to assure your revenue.
So let's get to it then, because I'm very interested.
You are interested in the money, isn't it?
In the money, because obviously that will matter to us.
Right. So there are other things that we have done.
Yeah.
Apart from, so the benefits we give, qualitative and quantitatively. So the qualitative ones are the ones that we can't measure, we can't put numbers on it. Like liftings in the night, in the absence of GRA, we can't put numbers to it, but they are important. Yes. So if you go back, let me do this. We have also digitized the way bills. Okay. Let me take some time.
Just a bit of that. So before we get,
what we are looking at is the way bill. This is a national data. When nations have transformed their data into AI, and you and I are enjoying now, before SML, this is how the way bills in the downstreams were stored. Yes, they were kept in sacks. This is national treasure. These were brought to us after, last year when somebody claimed we are not doing anything, there was need to investigate it to know, so there was suspension, SML was suspended. We have our officers also on the ground. We couldn't go there, the depots were close to us. So GRA didn't have us to pick them because we scan these way bills. We use OCR technology because when you see them, they are text.
What practically have you changed about this, what we are seeing now?
They are on the computer. At a click of a button, you are able to access this information. The importance of this is that this is like a pink sheet if you want to compare it to election. Because if OMCs, fuel stations, lift the petroleum product and they don't want to pay, recalcitrant ones, of course, there are good ones, but the recalcitrant ones who don't want to pay, they will tell you, show me the evidence. This is the only evidence GRA had at the time to prove in court that OMCA lifted this at this time, this quantity. But if I am OMC, a recalcitrant one, I don't want to pay the tax. I know how to get my data from here. So I know the gaps in the system. All of these are gaps. I know the gaps in the system. Then I tell you, take me to court. When we go to court, court is where we give evidence. We just don't talk. We give evidence. Where is the evidence? Court will ask for evidence, and you don't have it.
It will appear surprising to many that a whole revenue authority would have been saving data in this manner. That's quite a...
And this is what we receive. This is the evidence of where... So I've said somewhere that those who are fighting SML, this is where they want us to revert back, as a nation. Because when we take the SML innovative solution from GRA, which has enabled them to function efficiently in the downstream, I'm going to go to the numbers. These things, physical document in business, how to manage and store them, is critical to business. So when we take all the SML deployments away, what we are saying is that GRA should revert back to the manual processes of doing things, including using Excel sheets, in their reconciliation. It took them months for them to be able to cover the whole of Ghana. We have 25 depots now. Imagine if every depot serves about 200 tankers a day. They have to put that together, look into every OMC, how much they have lifted across the country. Because if we have, let's say, Blessed fuel station in Kumasi, you will not drive all the way to Tema to pick petrol. We need to bring it to Kumasi. So we have a depot in Kumasi, a depot in Takrady, a depot in Boga, a depot. They have to do all of this calculation. They have to reconcile the data. By the time they finish with that, if the OMC wants to do anything, they've finished it. They close the OMC, they go.
So that point has been established about how you've modernized it.
Yes, we've modernized that.
And of course, you're moving us into the space of technology. But I want to look at the real impact. For me, the numbers do matter.
This is our impact by
numbers. That's what indeed will give us a sense of the nation and what we're doing before SML, and as you're pointing out the gap, and what's happening now.
So before SML, let me explain this. What this means, NPA system, they are the regulators, so they ensure that the trading between the importers who have brought the oil and those who are buying to come and retail to us, the OMCs and the BDCs, they do the trading like you go to Amazon or Juma and buy your stuff. So once they do that, they record what has been lifted. Now, this same lifting value should be the same that will be given to GRA to take tax for the nation. But before SML, that is not the case. This is an analysis we did for January 2019 to April 2020, 16 months before we came. When NPA liftings recorded, data recorded 6.3 billion litres in the 16 months, yes. GRA received 3.180 billion litres, approximation.
And this is your own source or
no.
computation, or this is the official figures from
the official figures.
Revenue Authority. If
you look at NPA website, the download website, BDC Performance Report 2019, if you take Premise Act, because it's not taxed, you will get these figures. This data is also GRA's data from the Bank of Ghana. Because we look at, when we sell the product, GRA, we have three components: the tax, the volume, and the revenue. So if we have the revenue and then we have the tax, we can convert the volume. So we have this. That means that GRA was receiving less than half of the volume that was lifted. That is a critical, national security issue. And we are not saying it. At that point, GRA had commissioned EY, SML auditors, for them to look into this issue. And they have brought their report to say that the stock reconciliation deficiency between the lifted, which is from the NPA, and GRA is awful. It needs to be solved. There is a need for a solution to this. The Seaboard Chamber of Bulk Distributors had also done the same report. RAISE also did that. So it's not us who are saying that. Now, what this means is that the gap is more than what GRA was receiving for tax, which is 3.2 billion litres gap. How does this translate to money? This is just under 16. We will look at the money. Yeah. But after SML came, we came May 2020. We went live May 2020. To August 2021, we wanted to do the same 16 months comparative analysis. And NPA records 7.4 billion litres.
That's the
GRA, yes, the liftings.
Yes.
Once it shows that it's been lifted, it means the petroleum product has left the depot. It's going to be sold to us. So we need to take tax for it. So if the same volume doesn't reflect in the taxman's book, that means that some people are benefiting from the nation privately, illegally, from our revenue pocket, So GRA, now, if NPA records 7.4, GRA is also recording 7.1. That was initial. Now it's even close. It's very little than this. Yeah. So we've brought the gap from the over 3 billion to 260 million litres.
So let's look at the...
That is about 91.88% reduction that we have done. Now, how does this translate into money? Let's look at this. This is the gap. We wanted to show some...
Because I'm interested more in the amounts, right?
This is the amount.
Yes.
So under 60 months before SML came, from January 2020 to April 2020, January 2019 to April 2020, 4.6 billion Ghana cedis was a gap, was a revenue gap. Right. What that means is that 4.6 billion Ghana cedis was going into private pockets. Now, that is a national security issue. If under 16 months people are earning this money illegally into their pockets, what we have done is that within that same 16 months when we started operation, we brought it down to 375. Somebody will ask, so why do we still have, we have tax exempt, we have all of that. Yeah. So all of them fit into this. But the point is, this is 91% reduction that has been done through the SML's effort. Now, Blessed, you don't think if you were the one who was receiving this amount under 60 months, you will stand aloof and watch on for GRA to bring some company called SML to take this money from your coffers? No. So SML is in the news not because we don't have a contract, not because we don't have PPA approval, not because we've done any criminality against the nation. It is because people, stakeholders who were earning illegally from the downstream petroleum, 4.6 billion Ghana cedis under 60 months, see SML as a threat.
So you feel that this is more about, you know, a pushback from those who are engaged in all sorts of illegal activities, just to try and bypass the system. But there are more inquiries perhaps into SML activities. In fact, you were talking about as a Young doing some audits and pointing out that indeed there is value for money. How about contrary reports pointing out to the fact that, well, the amounts here may not be a true reflection of what's happening to them?
We've given the data source. We are not lying. And this is not the first time we are saying this. We've been saying this since last year when this thing was brought. We made this data available. And I have also brought you a brochure where we have the figures, actual figures, because we can't have the figures here. We have them in a table. We've published them. The data source is here. Look, Bank of Ghana is not a common institution, not any ordinary institution. If you give information and you mention their name and it's not right, they will come at you to say no.
If enough justification, and perhaps we will be addressing that whilst you also move through
the monthly average.
Yes,
monthly average taxable volume.
I get that. So these are the figures. I'll allow you to touch on that figure. But is this what is giving you the belief that you have the capacity enough to deal in all the sectors, to deal into, you know, try and do revenue assurance in all the folds, all the sectors, whether downstream, upstream? Is this the only basis, or perhaps the sole base for you to say we have the capacity to deal more, perhaps in the upstream sector?
Yes,
is that the only ground?
If this is not proven service, what else is it?
Because upstream
this is proven service, and
bigger,
let me tell you,
requiring much more technical capacity to handle the volumes of perhaps flows and also the amounts in there.
We will show you in video what we have done for the upstream and the gold. It's a replication of what we have done in the downstream, but to tailor it to suit the need of the upstream and also for the gold. This is proven service. Look, under, you know, from 2020 to 2024, June 2020 to December 2024, the accumulation of the yearly excess gains that we have been putting together stands at 14.1 billion letters. It translates into revenue. If you multiply it by 1.44, it translates into revenue of 20.3 billion in tax revenue. This is remarkable to think that this is a small company that is growing. What else do we need to prove that we can be able to do more if we are given the opportunity? And that's why we are telling Ghanaians we are engaging, because we believe the public is the biggest stakeholder
in
base in this. We want to let them see for themselves. Figures don't lie. And if under 4 years, because from May to June 2020 to December 2024, we've been able to put over 20 billion into the coffers of the nation, the data source is there. Anybody can verify that. What else what other proof do you need?
How about calls for you to amend some of your activities at the downstream sector? Do you acknowledge that you need to do that? Some reforms, perhaps?
Reforms like, example?
Well, you tell me, because you are faced with the practical issues of revenue mobilization. The argument by a section of the public is that you're not doing as much. You're not providing as value for money. Yes, you may be putting out this figure, but the challenge is that you ought to reform some of your activities.
But I wanted the video.
Right.
So the deployment we have made, it speaks for itself. Because, look, this entering into the depot, access into the depot on its own, it's a nightmare. because it's a charged environment and you can't fault them to even get access to go there. And look, we have, before you be able to do these things, these are deployments. Yeah. You need to, lay cables on the ground. ATES certified. You can't just take any cables there. These are European ATES certified that, has no oxygen in them so they don't explode stuff. We've laid cables, and if we have acres of land for one depot, and we've done all of these things to be able to give the result. Sponsored by one person, SML has done that. Government hasn't paid $1 or 1 peso into what we are showing you. What other arguments are you?
If GRA comes back to say that perhaps they intend to amend some more of the portions of activities that you carry out, would that be a welcome news for you? Or perhaps you rather want to do more?
We go to the table and have a discussion. In everything, we have discussions. And where we all see fair and fit, we all agree. But let me say this. In the downstream, we are paid in cedis. When we came CD in 2019, CD was about $1 to 6 CD.
That was the rate at the time.
Yeah, and we've had it, more than almost triple the price. The point I'm making is that nobody has taken us back to the table to have discussions. No. So the point I'm making is that the money we are receiving now, we are running at a loss. Because the CD was 6 CDs, yeah. 1 to 6. Now it's triple, almost triple the price. Yeah. Now we are happy that it's coming to. So if and everything we do is in dollar, apart from the pay we pay our staff, the local operations. Everything is in dollar. We partner with Honeywell. We go to America for our technology to bring them. So you can imagine the situation we are in now. But we are not complaining, because I've said it that somewhere that our commitment to this goes beyond contractual agreement.
And you feel it's becoming much more of public service?
It's more than that.
Okay, but GRA obviously should have concerns, because you have dealt in that space for all these years. Obviously, a reason for which they are basing their decision to review some of your activities downstream on the president then, his directive. But looking at the space you find yourself in now, what are the areas of improvement, especially for the GRA side? Do you have a feeling that there's need for more adjustment perhaps by the Revenue Authority so they are able to partner you better in delivering on revenue mobilization? Because there are some in there who say, well, we don't trust your citizens, we don't feel you have the capacity to run. We should be looking for alternatives beyond the SML.
We have a strong partnership with GRA. The petroleum unit, we are always in, training sessions and all of that. Where there is need for us to look at something that is going on, we sit around the table and have that. So to us, our partnership, the collaborative effort between our principals and ourselves, we think is fantastic. If they want us to do something that they see, oh, we have need for this and that. For instance, when they saw what we have done in the downstream, this is the upstream. They said, replicate this. This needs to be replicated in the upstream, because as at current, GRA don't have insight, a real-time insight into what the operations on the FPSO. So they receive information and they take for it. In the downstream, it was practically the same. And we've proven that we can give you information at real time. And that's what we've delivered. So they said, replicate this for us, because we know that we can improve our potential in that space for revenue for the nation. The same with the gold, solid minerals. So when they see that they have need for anything, we go to the table, we have discussions. And they believe in us. They know, they trust our technology. Our technology and innovation is first of its kind. We went to Honeywell. They told us point blank, look, the design you are giving to us, we have not done it for anybody in the world. It is first of its kind innovation. all of these, the SML experience, and now this is the upstream that you are looking at.
And I was just going to ask a question about the upstream.
Yeah.
Are you still convinced that perhaps government should revisit the conversation on bringing you back to the upstream sector?
We have a contract for it. We are waiting for our principals to give us the green light to start the operations. We've done 95% of the work, as you can see. We are waiting for the green light. It is government's decision to make. We are happy because we are business people. If you tell us to go to work tomorrow, we are ready to go to work. We know that there has been some communications that the suspension was to be removed. We have also seen some letters like that. But I think it takes time for the GRA to do certain things, so it's taking time for that. But as to concerns with suspension from the previous government, we know we've seen letters that says different. But it takes time. It's an institution. Right. It takes time for them to do certain things. So we are waiting for all these processes to be completed.
Okay. For the sake of time, because obviously we'll be going shortly, but looking into the projections for how much you intend to save perhaps in the upstream sector, do you have that target comparatively? Because you're looking at, over 90% when you're talking about the downstream sector. The upstream sector obviously demands a lot of technicality, a lot more work. Do you have projections in terms of how much you're going to save the country if we should roll into that phase of revenue assurance?
Yeah. So every year we've heard the reports coming, the oil revenue, the crude oil revenue is consecutively going down and down. All we can assure Ghanaians is that we've done 91.88% reduction of the existing gap in downstream. We can do the same for upstream, and we can do the same for gold. Going forward, we will strategically engage the public like we are doing for them to see the figures themselves. All we are waiting for is the green light. And as I said I think the national dialogue, we were there, I said, we've showcased the innovation. If Ghana is bleeding, revenue leakage is a problem. In the upstream, in the gold, the technology is here. What are we waiting for? It's time to take action. SML is ready. We are ready with the technology, the expertise, the groundbreaking innovation as well. So we are ready, and we are waiting on you.
To do a bit of journalistic work, much more in that space, being a bit prying into your privacy. Are you making much more losses, having to wait a bit more for that aspect to take off?
Every day. That is a very important question that you've asked, because if you look at what we have done, I don't know whether you can show us the gold as well. If the production team can put on the gold for us.
Yeah, we'll have that.
This is, the sector, upstream sector on its own is a huge investment. The gold is a huge investment. Combine the two, and you are waiting every day is revenue loss. So it's the earlier we get into this, the better for the nation and for us as well. So yeah,
what do you think, and perhaps this might be my final question, what do you think about public sentiment around revisiting the topic and how perhaps they'll see your go-ahead or the green light, how they'll perceive the whole green light when it's given?
It will be a win for Ghana, because this is first of its kind. Other African countries have heard a whimp about it, and they are coming. Ghana set the pace. When we do anything, they are looking on and they come to join in. So they are coming because nobody has it, and we have it. So for Ghana to have this homegrown initiative, it will be a win for Ghana, especially when we know that we are losing revenue every day from the upstream operation and also from the gold, which is very significant contributors to the national GDP. The earlier, the better. And I think the public will be happy to know, because with what they are seeing, it is clear that the solution is here. Because in the upstream, when we plug in, we are going to be able to record, because we are metering, just like the automatic tank gauging systems are going to meter the flow of the product. Once they are extracted, then they are going to be stored in the hydrocarbon storage, the tanks. We are measuring how much has been extracted in the day, how much is stored. At every point in time, we know the percentage of petroleum product, crude oil that is sitting in this storage. And then when it's being off-taken, because once the tanks are full, they need to be taken off for export. We are also metering that point. So we know how much was lifted per day, per month, and how many liftings are also done per month, and we will also know for a year. These are critical data, and I say that probably because I have a background in research. I am enthused about the data that we are about to receive.
Okay. Yeah, it's just the start of a bigger conversation, but of course this is an insightful one, giving us a sense of some of your activities. Grateful indeed that you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
With us, and grateful to you as well doing the listening and the viewing as well here on UpFront. We may bless us. We'll see you again, but until then, log on to myjoyonline.com. We have so many stories there for you to catch up on. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.